Hey everyone, I hope you're all doing well today. This time we are going to be talking about Zombie Nation on the NES. So let's talk about the story first, because like many stories in shoot-em-ups, shooters, or shmups, it's kind of insane and pretty ridiculous. For some weird reason, shoot-em-ups always have just bizarre stories, especially when you're dealing with a post-apocalyptic or world-ending catastrophe that you need to somehow fix. I was honestly reminded a little bit of the Mutant League games when I started playing this, but yeah, so strap yourselves in. This is the story of the game. According to the game, the world ends in 1999 when a meteorite crashes into the deserts of Nevada. It contains an entity called Darkseid. This entity somehow turns the population of the United States into zombies and takes control of a magical sword. I'm assuming that it turns the entire world's population to zombies, but that isn't totally clear here. Yeah, I don't know. Because this entity took control of the sword, a disembodied samurai head returns to life and travels to the US to defeat Darkseid. Also, Darkseid somehow used a magnetic beam thing, because video game logic, and that magnetic beam thing turned the Statue of Liberty to life, and now you have to fight that as well. I don't know how that works or why, and you don't really need an explanation. So when the samurai head, named Namakabui, defeats Darkseid, you get a nice little slideshow. There's no explanation of what's happening, and you just assume that everything returned to normal. At this point, I considered buying some drugs to make some sense of all this, but yeah, I just didn't. The story is bizarre, but somehow awesome. So now that we got that out of the way, Zombie Nation is basically 4 stages and then a 5th, which is the boss stage. The 4 stages can be tackled at any time or in any order you want, so it kind of feels a little bit like a Mega Man game, and it also means that I don't have to be really great to show you everything in this game. That makes me feel a lot better, because when I first started playing this, I had no idea what I was supposed to be doing, how my health bar worked, or anything like that. So this is a side-scrolling shooter, and yeah, it's got kind of, I don't know, how can I really put this? It's weird, but it's also really, really fun. Like I mentioned, you've got 4 levels that you can take in any order, which I really enjoy. But I really want to talk to you about the confusing as all hell life bar, because that just, I had no idea what the hell was going on with that thing. It's at the bottom left-hand part of your screen, and it's represented by 8 heads, which are conveniently the same head as your main character, or at least it's your character sprite. When you take damage, those will turn to skulls. Sometimes when you hit something, you'll take damage. Like if an enemy shoots a projectile at you, you'll sometimes take damage from it. Sometimes you won't. When you run into something, you won't lose all of your life, but you'll lose most of it. You are temporarily invincible after you got hit, so that's nice. But yeah, it's weird. Really, really weird. I thought that the health bar meant, okay, you can get hit 8 times, or maybe you can hit 4 times. No, that's not how that works. I don't know how it really works. I just know when it's gone, a weird little speech bubble pops up and your head falls down to the bottom of the screen. That was all I got from it. You'll occasionally see little people falling in the screen. You can pick those people up, and then you're kind of saving them from being zombies somehow. I don't know how that works, but sure, If that's what the game wants me to do, I'll do it. And you can kind of blow up most things, which seems cool at first, but it creates a lot of just clutter and confusion on the screen with everything blowing up, especially when you come to like an actual barrier you need to shoot through that maybe doesn't really look like a barrier that you could go through. It's a weird game, and I'll talk more about the graphics in just a bit, but yeah, this in some ways is just a little disappointing. You only have one life, so once you die, you need to start all over, and you get a continue screen. So instead of having, like many other shoot-'em-ups or something like that, you have 3 lives and then a certain number of continues. This one gives you unlimited continues, or it gives you a large number of continues, but you only have 1 life to get through all of this. And you're kind of supposed to just keep moving the entire time. You're not supposed to kind of like be stationary or anything like that. You're supposed to be moving all over the screen. So that was a little weird to me, but once you get that down, it's not an incredibly hard game on the base difficulty, which means I don't really want to try it on hard because it feels tough on easy. So playing it on hard would probably be a nightmare. Overall, the gameplay kind of suffers from a lot of things that other shoot-'em-ups suffer from. You have a lot of memorization, and your reflexes need to be pretty good. I want to like this game more, but there's just something that's keeping me from enjoying it. One of the things that's keeping me from enjoying it is the graphics, because I really wanted to love the graphics in this game. And they look really impressive at times. There's a lot going on here, and it looks really, really good. But it's also really busy on the screen. Not so much with projectiles coming at you, but just with everything that you blow up. There's a lot of animation going on, everything's on fire, things are exploding, and it gets really frustrating to just know what you're supposed to do and know where you're supposed to go. One thing that's really cool is I didn't notice any slowdown in this game. So while the game is really, really impressive and there's just a ton going on in it, it's not like other NES games where there's a lot going on and then the screen kind of starts to stutter and everything slows down or you have sprite flickering. I didn't notice any of that with Zombie Nation. My major problem is just knowing what you can and can't go through. Because certain objects will look like they're in the foreground, but they're not. And other objects will look like you can just pass by them, but you can't. The game has a lot of just blocking going on in it. So you'll come to a certain point where they want you to pass by a barrier weapon. And those will be pretty easy to see, but sometimes how to get around them doesn't really make a whole lot of sense because you've been able to pass through things up into a point, and then they'll throw like, okay, now there's a smokestack here and you can't go around it. It's a little frustrating at times, and I wish that wasn't in the game that much. Once you get to the cave sections, you have to blow through a bunch of rocks in order to get through things, and that can be a little confusing because it looks like you're just flying past the background because the barrier blends into the background. So, yeah, while the game looks really impressive for an NES game, especially for the time period it was released, there's just some stuff that I do not really like about it. And it's just because it's too busy and there's just too much going on. It can also be kind of hard to line up your shots to kill some of these enemies. It's a good game, but it's really frustrating from just a visual standpoint. I feel like every good thing that I have to say about this game comes with some kind of a caveat. It has good graphics, but it can be overly crowded at times, which hampers the gameplay. The gameplay is good, but then it gets hampered by the graphics. And then you have the one-hit deaths, or not one-hit deaths, but you only have one life, and that gets really frustrating. It's like a lot of shooters where I enjoy playing them, but at times it feels like they're just a bit too complicated or too hard to really get through things. And there are a lot of cheap deaths, even with a life bar in Zombie Nation. It's not a bad game, but it has a bunch of just minor flaws that add up the more that you look at this game. It is one of the more just bizarre shooters, and it leans into its horror setting, which I really like, but it can be really frustrating when you're playing it. It's a lot of fun to play, but at the same time, it can be just immensely frustrating. I may have ranked this one if you read the blog post on it. I may have given it a lower score than I probably should have, but I just felt that all of the little things that I didn't like in it added up to just kind of lower the score more than maybe it probably should have. Anyway, it is a fun game, and I would have liked to have rented it or at least played it around Halloween, because it's one of those games on the Nintendo that could be a Halloween game. At least I think so. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and I will talk to you all later. Bye.